Welcome back. Today we're hearing from an enterprise architect with extensive experience putting theory into practice at large companies, Rudi Claes. I briefly had the pleasure of collaborating with Rudi at Argenta Bank in a scaled Agile environment. So I am excited to dive deeper into his career and insights. Do you want to sharpen your skills as an enterprise architect? Welcome to Verbonden, the podcast where we combine insights from experienced professionals with real-world examples from the world of architecture. My name is Elise Luyckx and I am your guide through the layers of enterprise architecture, making it less mythical and more concrete. First questions first, Rudi. We are now at the VUB, a wonderful location during the intersection 25. My first question for you is, how did your career start? How did you become an enterprise architect?
Basically, 15 years ago, I started doing enterprise architecture. Mm-hmm. Before that, I was a solution architect. Before that, I was into development, lead development, and software architecture. Mm-hmm. So it was a rather natural evolution from the technology side, so to speak. So I started out writing code and left writing code behind towards design, architecture, up the ladder, so to speak, towards enterprise architecture. Yeah. So that's a bit my 30-plus year career in a nutshell.
And what were you doing when you say, I was doing enterprise architecture? What were you doing at that time, the first time that you realized that enterprise architecture was what you were doing?
Yeah, that's indeed an interesting question. Where does something start? Where does something else end? Mm-hmm. In my view, enterprise architecture starts where solution architecture ends, so to speak. That basically the solution you're looking for, mm-hmm. and you're optimizing that decision. That's basically solution architecting. Mm-hmm. On top of that, there is that strategy towards execution affair, where things get set out. Let's say the landscape needs to evolve to something that reflects that pointers you get from there, usually from management. Business is there in the lead. Mm-hmm. And if you're in that area thinking of, okay, what does then the enterprise need to look like? Yeah. How do you need to fill them in with digital technologies, mm-hmm. but also with process and people? So basically, the long answer short, it's basically optimizing people, process, and tools at enterprise level. Yeah. That's basically where I would then position enterprise architecture.
Yeah. In a way, you leave the solutioning behind more to look at the enterprise. Well, if you consider the titles of solution and enterprise architect, but that's a more simple way of putting it, I'd say.
Yeah, sure, and those are roles. So basically, you could combine them. So once in my career, I was everything because I was the only one doing IT in a very small organization. Then basically, you're wearing all the hats. So also, I would say that enterprise architecture is about the future, looking at future state. Mm-hmm. Looking at to be, looking at what if scenarios. That's where enterprise architecture needs to be. Yeah. And translating this towards execution is also in the scope of enterprise architecture. Yeah. But then actually selecting the right level of solutions, putting them in place, having them implemented, that's where you distance yourself a bit and leave it to the others to take over the stick. Yeah. And see what happens with that future state you have in your mind. Does it become reality or not? If it does, all the better. If it doesn't, then you need to intervene and see where you need to steer and adjust. That's also part of enterprise architecture. Yeah. So, in my view, you need to be able to talk to all the levels, from developers, lead developers, to all kinds of technical designers and architects, and how these roles are labeled. So let's say architects and on the floor, following up the build master, so to speak. That's where enterprise architecture needs to be.
Yeah. Now we are also talking about enterprise design, and that's how we actually started our conversation as well. Would you consider yourself as an enterprise designer at the moment, or moving into the enterprise design field, or how do you position enterprise design in your career at this moment?
I consider myself still an enterprise architect, but performing enterprise design. Okay. Enterprise design is, of course, a bit more than just enterprise architecture. It's 1/3 of the landscape you're covering over there. 2/3 are not enterprise architecture, or in enterprise design terms, the color blue is architecture, green is identity, red is experience. So that's, and on the intersects you find yourselves in discussion, in interaction, in discovery with other roles, and that's where enterprise design then takes place.
Yeah.
So.
What was the moment where you first discovered enterprise design or heard about it?
Basically, there are two flavors or two versions, so to speak. You've got the classic flavor, which dates back, let's say, about 20-25 years, which was part of enterprise blueprinting and all those things that are in the classic architecture frameworks like TOGAF and the others present. Let's say the business area of things, bubble B, business in TOGAF, for example.
So it was already interwoven, so to speak, in the...
That's enterprise design classic style. Enterprise design 2.0 or intersection style deliberately tries to balance the other areas on an equality basis. So let's say the bubbles in the intersection enterprise design schematic are evenly sized. So the blue architecture, the green identity, and the red experience are as important as all the others. So basically, that's where enterprise design new style kicks in, and that was really refreshing to discover this in my personal experience early 2022.
You mentioned that it was refreshing to get in contact with enterprise design. So does that mean that you were missing something, and that you found in enterprise design that you were missing in enterprise architecture?
Yeah, indeed, that was the case. So basically, classic enterprise design, or 1.0, is outside in. So you start deep in the blue. You reach outside, touch, let's say, the edges, and then that's where business architecture, strategy, but also customer experience and product design kick in, and very interesting stuff. But you're still working from IT perspective, so to speak. In enterprise design 2.0, it doesn't matter where you start, from the blue, the architecture, the red experience, or the green identity, doesn't matter. They're as equal as, and they get you to refreshing viewpoints. When you follow the dots from one bubble or facet to the other, you find interesting things at both ends. That's really important and refreshing as a difference between classic and let's say modern enterprise design.
And you also work as a consultant. Do you experience also a different reaction working with clients more from the enterprise design, the different viewpoints, in comparison to the previous approach that you used to use?
In fact, you do. The recent experience, a meeting with C-level executives, the CIO, so Chief Information Officer, the Chief Executive Officer, CEO, and also the Chief Financial Officer, the CFO, were present. And we're presenting an enterprise design instrument, the Milky Way Enterprise Map. And the fun thing was that the CEO and the CFO immediately grasped it, what it was all about. We had to explain it a bit more to the CIO where his IT part was, so to speak. So that was really interesting to see that enterprise design allows you to get in dialogue with those non-IT, so let's say all things at C-level, others than chief technical and chief information. Also chief data is also very much involved in enterprise design. So that's basically a difference in my experience.
Okay. That sounds very interesting to me that you mention it is like this, because in the past conversations we already discovered that enterprise architecture is moving from the IT department, and the IT department is more moving towards being present in the whole business. So this actually breaks down the wall that used to be there, and they need to indeed interact with the CFOs, data, and all the other departments in the company.
Yeah, basically enterprise architecture is best positioned between business and IT. Is always the statement in an organizational structure that's a challenge. So you're either in IT or not, and then you're perceived as the ones from the other side, and you want to be in between. But enterprise design, basically, you intersect with other roles, disciplines, as an enterprise architect. So that's really interesting to see that over there, basically, the boundaries disappear. If you start talking the same language, so to speak, if you start practicing enterprise design, then you're working together and talking to each other on an equal basis. And that's really interesting in my experience until now.
You also mentioned talking the same language. Does this mean that you bring the enterprise design language to the company, you educate them, or do you get to know the company and tailor the language to them? Or
both, basically both. You start out with not stating what enterprise design is or Agile is as a language, but you're using the tools and the visualizations. And you talk about aspects that they know, domain aspects, and so to speak, in their word, in their lingo. And then gently but firmly you put them into, okay, this is basically enterprise design, what we're doing now. And we're covering some ground, and we're finding the intersections. Like, for instance, organization is an intersection between architecture and identity. Organizational design is there as a primary driver. Really interesting for HR, of the chief recruitment officer. Intersection between architecture and experience is then services, product design. Really interesting what happens over there. There's of course that intersection between green and red, so outside the blue. That's where you find the brand. So what is your company all about? What brand or brands do they have? How do they position themselves? That's also really interesting that you can blend in that in one common framework, so to speak, one common language. And that's then the edgy part of enterprise design, that all those things get named, get typed, but not that formal or that technical like other languages have as a downside, like Archimate or UML. They're rather technically oriented. Edgy by nature is, let's say, enterprise oriented. So everyone in the enterprise should be able to understand it after some gentle introduction.
And for your role, it's easier to take people in alignment with that story, because it's more like the step up for people to get along with the exercise that you want them to take part in. Is easier.
I wouldn't say easier. There's always, let's say, a challenge in every kind of interaction or let's say engagement you have with a customer. But let's say the the boundary isn't there, because it's the complete enterprise. And also the complexity isn't there in the framework. It's deliberately simple, rather high level.
Yeah.
So not about the details, but there are other things and techniques for that. But allows you to get in that dialogue that you need to get the enterprise designed in a better fashion. Towards experience, towards identity, towards architecture, and in that combination, that sweet spot, that's where enterprise design really starts working out.
Let's just dive into the friction, maybe. In your experience, what are the resistance points or the friction that you had so far?
As enterprise architects?
Yeah, and also, how do you handle it? I think it's interesting for people to know, because you're experienced, and what types of friction do you experience, and how do you handle them? Yeah.
The first thing, of course, is that you need to realize that you're working with people. People with their, let's say, habits, for better or for worse, so to speak. With their approach. There's also that corporate culture in which those people operate. You're stepping in as an outsider, so you need to blend in. You need to understand their world, their domain. That's the first friction you could have. For instance, I've experienced it with big pharma. They have that really special lingo about how they name and use things, and that's, let's say, an entry course by itself to get to know how their world operates. That is to say, of course, in finance or utility or whatever you have, there is that, let's say, rather high level, scratching the surface, rather easy, but then you need to dive a bit deeper to think about future state, because enterprise architecture is about thinking about the future. What needs to be done now to steer that enterprise, that organization in the right direction, that they can leverage people, process and tools, and also implement digital capabilities, right-sizing the current IT application landscape, because basically every enterprise nowadays is an IT company, for better or for worse. So they need to, let's say, work their way around IT towards their business and back again. And that's where the challenges, of course, lie currently.
Yeah. You also teach to enterprise architects, or you also teach, right? In your students, for example, what do you think or experience that they struggle with the most when they have an education in everything like TOGAF, Archimedes, every Agile?
Yeah.
What do people struggle with most?
So I started teaching in 2000 when I was a developer. And moved upon the ladder towards frameworks and then solution architecture, enterprise architecture. So over there you have to leave out the technology part. So teaching a technology course is about getting to know the nuts and the bolts and interaction, discussion, seeing that things are okay, check it out, implement it, and basically you're done. That doesn't work out well with software architecture. Towards basically you need to grasp more concepts, then you need to think about abstractions, frameworks, approaches, languages, and it doesn't get better, so to speak, when you're in solution and enterprise architecture. It's all about concepts, ideas, tools, putting them into practice. That's, let's say, the tools approach, the process approach, and that's where the frameworks help out, but that doesn't help you out with interacting with people.
Yeah.
So you've got basically the hard skills and the soft skills that you need to blend in at every level. And so that's also true for software architects. You need to be able to talk to developers and convince them that the guidelines, guardrails you're implementing or having to implement them. For you, why is it done there? The why question pops up with solution architecture. Why is the solution you're preferring the best solution? Can you make the case, the argumentation? Same deal with enterprise architecture, future state. Why is that future state you're envisioning the right one, so to speak? If you're evaluating scenarios, the what ifs, what if we're doing this or not doing that, or we need to downsize, or there are budget cuts, or there's disruption going on, what do we do then to safeguard that future state? So that's where people and culture are really important.
Yeah.
And basically you need to balance hard skills and soft skills. And let's say get used to company politics. Let's say practice diplomacy. Those are things that are you learn from experience and are shareable in the classroom as, let's say, war stories and experiences. That's something that you don't find in the textbooks, of course.
Yeah. So we need to combine learning by doing and also learning the companies, learning the frameworks.
You can't teach enterprise architecture from the ivory tower, so to speak. Or as an academic. But as an academic you can, of course. We're blending in our master in enterprise architecture, the two, the academic visions, let's say the classroom visions, the theory and the research. And there's the practice, the battleground, the battle scars. Combining those, that's basically the best blend you can get then in your teaching and in your learning.
And for you, moving from enterprise architecture into enterprise design, considering the human interactions, were there any soft skills that you experienced, like I need to do this more or train these soft skills because the human interactions changed?
Wouldn't say changed. You need to be able to try to step in their shoes and see what they are seeing, how they perceive things. And that's really interesting to see, like a conference like Intersection. You meet up with all sorts of people, the people from the green, people from the red area, and they have interesting stories, experiences, approaches, also tools and techniques. And that's really refreshing to see how they look at the same thing, an enterprise, from their point of view, and how they approach it, which is also a combination of soft and hard skills. So basically there is not that much of a difference in approach, but you're expanding your vision, and you're leaving that classic inside out approach that you're practicing with classic enterprise design.
Now for a future Rudi question, maybe. What is the next thing that you're going to focus on yourself for your architecture career, enterprise design career, or what's the next thing for you?
Next thing is basically evolving a bit more on the green and the red area of enterprise design. Following up the blue area as always to see
so the experience and the product identity. Okay.
So basically identity is more than just strategy. That's my personal discovery over there. And experience is more than just user experience or customer experience. That's where the blue enterprise architecture touches those other things, and then you're still basically in the comfort zone. But beyond that, that's where the interesting things are.
And how do you plan to grasp that, to get into the red, the red zone and the green?
Yeah. Basically, via Intersection group, you meet lots of interesting people and lots of interesting resources that they refer to, that they use. So there's a wealth of information and experience outside that you can touch upon. that you're not basically covering when let's say being cozy in your blue bubble of enterprise architecture. That's where the new things, for me personally, can be found. Yeah.
All right.
So
I wish you very, very good luck with that journey. And thank you for being on the podcast, Rudi.
A pleasure. So.
Thank you for listening to this conversation with Rudi. Next time we're doing something unique. A panel conversation recorded at the Intersection 25 Enterprise Design Conference. We'll bring together 3 experts in enterprise design, each with a very different background and perspective. Many thanks to Pieter-Jan Rombout for producing and editing, and to Leonard Busset for the intro music. And of course, thank you for listening, and see you next time